Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Roslyn Hill Chapel, a spiritual home for open minds. I'm Zoe Gerrard, chapel member and your worship assistant for this Unitarian service. Whoever you are and however you are this morning, there is space for you here. Thank you for continuing to use hand sanitizer, wearing a mask where possible, unless exempt, including when we sing hymns together. The chapel's board is awaiting the government's next decision on COVID restrictions and will let you know how our precautions might change because of this. Do join us for refreshments at the back of the chapel after the service. If you're watching at home, you can join us for tea and conversation in the virtual side aisle at midday. The Zoom link was sent out in our weekly update email and is in the Connect link in the YouTube description. You can sign up to our emails via the chapel website, where you can find more information on all our activities. If you prefer a paper copy, you can pick up our Open Mind newsletter from the stewards table. This afternoon, we have a spiritual creative writing workshop led by Rev Kate at 2 p.m, which you can just show up to. No need to book. There is also a new online course for Lent, Hearing God in Poetry. It starts on Wednesday, 2nd of March, and you can find more information about that on our website or in our newsletter next week. We are an independent registered charity, and we rely on your contributions to continue our work. We take the collection at the end of the service. You can donate using the donate button on our website, or we invite you to donate via cash or card at the back of the chapel. And thank you for the many ways you contribute to our spiritual community through your time, talent, and treasure. We light our chalice flame, the symbol of our liberal faith, with words by Rosemary Watola Troma. We belong to the Grand Communion. We are the dust that hopes, the dust that dances in the light with all other dust that makes the world.
Thank you, Zoe, and good morning, everyone. I'm Rev Kate Dean. I am proud to serve as the minister for this Unitarian spiritual community. Now, before we greet each other, I'd like to give a special welcome to those of you who are here for the first time, or those of you who have not been back to chapel for a while. Welcome home. I'd also like to welcome our guest speaker, Kamto Nzelu, who will be sharing his thoughts with us later. Kamto belonged to the Unitarian community at Manchester Cross Street and is now a regular with us. And you may have seen him singing in our chapel choir, which, by the way, is open to new members in case you are thinking of bringing a bit more singing into your life this year. So, as a spiritual community, we come together and we like to get to know one another. So I invite you now to turn to someone near you, to say your name and welcome them to chapel this morning. Thank you, everyone, and I do hope we can continue those conversations over tea and coffee at the back of the chapel after the service. But for now, we'll sing our first hymn. It's hymn number 43. You'll see the number up there. And we are really grateful for Margaret Perry for stepping in when both our director of music and our guest musician were unexpectedly unavailable. So we're going to stand after Margaret's introduction to sing hymn number 43 in your purple hymnal, Gather the Spirit. Now, I have a story for all ages, and it looks like most of our families are on their half-term holidays in any case, so Maya might get a Sunday morning off to enjoy the service instead. This story is called What Are the Neighbours Like? And it's from Unitarian minister Bill Darlison's book, The Shortest Distance. It's contemporary, author unknown. So one Sunday afternoon in spring, it's almost spring, it's around the time of year when people start thinking about moving house, an old man was leaning on his garden gate, smoking a pipe and meditating on life, when a stranger approached him. "Excuse me, sir," said the stranger, "I'm thinking of moving to this town, and I was wondering, what are the people like around here?" Well, the old man took the pipe out of his mouth and he said, "Well, what are the people like where you are now?" "Oh, I don't like them, he said. They are noisy, selfish, mean and unfriendly. I've lived there for 5 years and I've not found a single person that I like. I'll be glad to get away from them. Well, said the old man, I expect you'll find the people around here are like that too. Selfish, mean, unfriendly. I don't think you're going to like it around here. The stranger walked on. A little while later, another stranger approached the old man. Excuse me, sir, he said. I'm thinking of moving to this town and I was wondering, what are the people like around here? Well, said the old man, what are they like where you live now? Oh, he replied, they are fine people. I've grown to love them all. They are friendly, sociable, helpful. I'll be sorry to leave them, but I've got a new job, so I have to move. Well, said the old man, I expect you'll find the people around here are like that too. Friendly, sociable, and helpful. I think you'll enjoy living around here. So since we don't have children to sing out, I think we'll just still sing our usual Go Now in Peace. The words should be in your service sheet. Yes. Yeah. I invite anyone who's joined us after the beginning of the service to do come and take a seat. There are plenty of chairs here. I invite you now into a time of prayer and meditation. We come together in fellowship each Sunday with hearts full of joy and full of concern. We think especially of those who have been affected by the recent storms and the developments on the border between Russia and Ukraine. If you are holding someone in your heart this morning, I invite you to say their name aloud in the coming moments of stillness, so that we may also hold them in our prayers. Spirit of life and love, God of our hearts, We give thanks for those who bring us joy, and we pray for the safekeeping of those whom we hold in concern. For all those names, spoken and unspoken, may they be surrounded by the loving kindness that we offer them today. Blessed be, and amen. Speaking of those winds, I think we can still hear the creaking in the rooftops. Our reading today is by the African-American Unitarian Universalist minister and LGBT activist Reverend Adam Lawrence Dyer. It's called Love Beyond God, and it's taken from his meditation book with the same name, Love Beyond God. What if every time you woke, your sigh was felt by every being on earth? What if every time you spoke, your words were heard by every ear on earth? What if when you told a joke, you tickled the senses of every smile on earth? What if with each tender stroke, you shared your touch with every hand on earth? What if when your heart broke, you tasted the tears running down every cheek on earth? No bond or brand or gilted yoke. Surely this is love that reaches beyond, that holds one to another and every other to one, no matter the colour or where we're from. This is now. This is we. This is love. This is God. And this is love beyond God. And now let us sing once again. This time the lyric is in your service sheet. It's Be Thou My Vision. Please rise after the introduction. And now it is my pleasure to invite Kamto to give his sharing.
Good morning, everyone. So, this is my circle at work. This is my circle at work. It is often pointed out that people turn to religion in times of hardship. During a pandemic, for example, I have found my way back to the church myself. However, most of the connections I have made were with people who didn't believe in the things that I believe in. It's okay to pick and choose and to make sure your relationships have purpose. Relationships need to have a purpose, and that purpose might not always be our demographics. Last month, I attended a meeting at the Japan Society, London. I just about managed to keep up with what Tomo and Fuji were saying. They were comparing the food in Liverpool to the food in Fukuoka, which is basically the Japanese Manchester. Fuji was shocked that I had never eaten curry at the Curry Mile in Manchester, even though this was where I was born. Where do most people make their longest lasting friendships? At university. My friend Umar kept me focused enough to move to London 7 months ago and start teaching. It made no difference that I had returned to this country and he was still in Nigeria. Umar also told me that Jesus, the Buddha, Muhammad, and Krishna were all really the same person. They all came for the same reason, to show us a new way to connect with God and with each other. So maybe if we started to look at what's the same instead of what's different, who knows? My ethnic group fought the Nigerian Civil War with Umar's, but I am not sure I would still be alive without his advice. Some of the most important connections I have made were much more brief than my friendships at university, though. It was my housemate who told other housemates that he did the same job that I'm doing now at the same company. In other words, people misunderstood my background until another teacher moved in and confirmed it to be genuine. I have read that introverted personality types tend to be misunderstood. Because I work online, I am not actually obligated to leave the house. That is the other thing. I sometimes joke that I only exist on the internet. Even the negative human interactions I've had have pushed me to overcome. Even the negative human experiences can be just as useful. I remember a documentary about the LGBT community in Jamaica, Gaycation. One man said his country was still hemorrhaging after the colonial period. He said that that is why LGBT people are homeless in his country. I didn't want to internalize the shame from my own Nigerian community either. I started replacing a lot of my clothes from when I had less control over my life. I had to burn a lot of bridges 2 years ago because of the homophobia in my Nigerian community. if you do what is expected of you in a situation like that, you're basically looking at forced marriage. I came to the Unitarian Chapel in Manchester because of that situation. Reverend Cody Coyne said, "We forgive each other and ourselves." Even the negative experiences can push you to overcome. Occasionally, I picture the walls of Jericho coming down as I gain more control over my life and my circle, of course. I am not sure any of my closest friends would be my friends if we were to meet today for the first time. My network is not the most predictable cluster of people. But as long as you are widening your circle, as long as your relationships have purpose, anything else is secondary. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kamto. I now invite Zoe to give our prayer.
I invite you into a time of prayer and meditation. We begin with a reading by Reverend Leif Seligman, followed by a short time of stillness and silence. Loving God, we pause in the stillness to rest for a moment, to quiet ourselves so that we can feel what stirs within us. Each breath draws us closer to the pulse of life, and with each exhalation, we make room for something new. May we find in this gathering the comfort of those who care. May we encounter patience along our growing edges and compassion in our most tender spots. Here, may we find the inspiration and encouragement we need to face our challenges and nurture ourselves. And in the presence of suffering across the globe, may we redouble our efforts to practice kindness where we are, with the hope that the light of our actions travels like the light of faraway stars. May our gestures of compassion and generosity seed possibility. May we travel humbly with one another, choosing reconciliation over resentment as we try to live right-sized. When life presses in and shifts us off balance, when pain assails us, when frustration mounts, may the rhythm of our breath steady us and bring us back to a place of gratitude.
There's a story in the Anglican writer Barbara Brown Taylor's book, An Altar in the World, about the desert fathers and a few desert mothers who were in the early Christian communities. In around the 4th century, when Christianity had become the religion of the Roman Empire, and uncomfortable with the mix of religion and politics, these desert fathers and desert mothers left the cities to live solitary lives in the desert. Brown Taylor writes, "Yet even the monks who lived all alone came together from time to time to celebrate communion and share a common meal afterwards, over which they discussed any problems that had arisen in the community. Even if they lived 32 miles apart, they remained in community. They needed one another, and they knew it. This was not simply a matter of physical need, although that was certainly a factor for people living in the wilderness. The deeper reason they needed one another was to save them from the temptation of believing in their own self-sufficiency. One elder who lived all alone undertook a 70-week fast. Can you imagine? 70 weeks, eating only once a week during all that time, in order to become more receptive to God. When he was little more than bone and vapor, he asked God to reveal to him the meaning of a certain Bible passage, but God would not do it. The elder, disappointed by how little his fast had done for him, decided to go and ask one of his brothers what the passage meant. The minute he closed the door to his cell, an angel of God appeared to him, saying, "Your 70-week fast did nothing to bring you one step closer to God. But now that you have humbled yourself enough to go to your brother, God has sent me to reveal the message of the passage." Then the angel told the elder what it meant and went away. The evolutionary advantage Homo sapiens have over other species was that we work together. Rather than relying on an individual's strength, they developed habits of cooperation. 10 men trying to slay a lion by cooperating stand a much better chance than one man on his own, however strong he might be. And it appears that successful cooperation and human interaction led to increased human brain size and the development of language as a direct result. It is said that there is a correlation between brain size and the optimal size of a social group. The human brain is capable of knowing around 150 people and counting them as friends. So it's not surprising that we can feel overwhelmed when information in our social feeds connects us to hundreds of so-called friends. And we human beings have evolved to cooperate. We do this through showing compassion, treating others as we would wish to be treated ourselves, and through showing our trust. Without being able to trust someone, it's very difficult to work with them, socialize with them, or even just interact with them. Our starting point tends to be a trusting one, particularly if we are a member of a religious or social community such as this one. We want to think the best of people, and indeed, it might put us at a disadvantage if we don't. Trust and its companion value, compassion, are essential for human survival. During the talks at the online Fuse Festival of Unitarians yesterday, The Quaker spiritual environmentalist Alistair McIntosh spoke about the journey of life as being a journey of pilgrimage, but emphasized the connection between personal growth and service to one's community. Borrowing a phrase from Parker J. Palmer, McIntosh it suggested that spiritual communities such as ours can be containers hospitable to the soul. I really liked that phrase, that we are containers hospitable to the soul. And so our personal pilgrimage should return to community in order to complete that essential cycle. And earlier, Kamto spoke about how we connect with new people, and perhaps there are times in our lives at university or other times when it is easier to make friends. But I think it's never too late to widen your circle and welcome someone new into your life. What they bring with them may depend on your attitude towards them. What are the neighbours like around here? Probably a lot like you. As Martin Luther King Jr. said in the language of his times, we must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools. Our services this month are on the theme of widening the circle, and so I now invite you into a short guided meditation with a few questions to reflect upon. So let's begin in our meditation position, feet on the floor, our connection to the earth. You can have your hands on clasped in your lap, on your thighs, whatever's most comfortable for you. And you might want to close your eyes or at least soften your gaze at this point. We'll begin with a few calm, deep breaths in and out. Let us settle into this space, becoming aware of the sounds around us, the bird's song, the sound of the wind. And now, turning your focus inwards to your own inner life. I offer these questions for you to reflect upon in the stillness. When were you saved by someone who widened a circle to let you in? When were you saved by someone who widened a circle to let you in? And who needs you to widen the circle now for them? Who needs you to widen the circle now for them? with those questions and perhaps some answers resting in our hearts, let us gently move back to the present moment, opening our eyes as we come to our final hymn. This hymn is in our purple hymnal. It's number 98. Love Will Guide Us, hymn number 98. Life and love. May we work to widen our circle of compassion, reaching out to those in need with kindness, as we feel your presence in the ordinariness of life. Blessed be and amen. Please be seated.
Thank you, Margaret, for saving the day to come to play for us. Thank you, Kamto, for coming and sharing with us, and also Kate for the service, Sally stewarding, and Ben, yes, Ben's very helpful as well, thank you, and our lovely lady doing the Zooming for us. So thank you, everybody, for everything you do, and if you can join us, it would be great. and hope to see you again soon, including people who are at home sometime. Bye-bye, thank you.
Just going to grab the microphone once again to remind everyone, if you are interested in the spiritual creative writing workshop this afternoon, it begins at 2 p.m. It's free to attend, or donations always welcome. And speaking of donations, Ben will be at the back with the card reader if you'd like to make your donation. We'll take a little while to bring the hot water out, but please occupy yourself with a biscuit and join us for refreshments at the back of the chapel. Thank you.